wanted to touch on the concept of ascension. How would you define ascension? I mean, maybe there's different conceptions of what that means, but what's your take on it?
In my particular world, ascension means to no longer live in illusion. So it would be the state of complete awareness. We've called that many things over the years. We've called it enlightenment. We've called it a state of heaven, but realized heaven. You know, instead of heaven you reach when you're dead. It's a state of freedom, but it's not an exemption from the highs and lows of life. It's more that you're in a state of awareness to the degree that you're no longer resistant to the highs or lows of life. You're willing to experience everything. And that in and of itself creates an inner peace. Peace, of course, we have to understand is not, it's a transcendent state. The state of peace transcends opposition. So peace is neither good nor bad. Peace is neither positive nor negative. It transcends all of that. That's what most of us are actually looking for.
So kind of a pure acceptance of what is?
Yes. But acceptance is such a weird word, because when you say the word acceptance to people, it almost causes them to go in the opposite direction of where they need to be going. Because when we say accept, it sort of makes us feel like, oh, I have to just sort of like swallow this thing I don't want, you know? So it's almost like you find approval for it. Approval is a better word, I think.
Yeah, you were talking about that in a recent interview, I think.
Oh, you're going to hear me harping on that for the rest of my life.
Yeah, because it's one of those kind of subtle distinctions. It doesn't mean that you don't try to change anything, right? It's that you kind of recognize the underlying lesson of whatever has transpired for a reason, yes, as opposed to resisting it.
Yes. Subtleties are everything when it comes to trying to improve any aspect of your life, I think. It's what frustrates me the most about being in the role that I'm in, and also frustrates me in general just as a person who's embarking on a spiritual path and is never going to stop that, right? It's frustrating because it's like you're working with so much nuance, and these tiny little details and subtleties make all the difference in the universe. And it's really important, of course, that we make those kinds of distinctions for people, because it's very easy when we're making general statements or using general words like acceptance for us to have a concept of that word without paying attention to the subtle reactions that we have to those words. So, and just because of the subtle reaction, we might miss the meaning of something entirely.
So, to what extent? So you're describing ascension basically as a state of consciousness.
Yes.
In what way does or does that not correspond with other dimensions?
Any change in consciousness is going to affect your physical life and your ability to perceive the third dimension versus multiple dimensions. And so what you watch when people ascend, essentially, when they gain an awareness that is like I'm speaking of, is that they gain access to all awareness. Awareness cannot be limited to the third dimension. So you start to see the realities of multiple dimensions. You start to be able to see the perspective of a source consciousness, which is beyond all of it. And it has a very unexpected effect, which of course bores people, because when you want to ascend because you want to get out of the third dimension, which frankly is the reason most people want to ascend, like, this is dense crap down here, I don't want to be here anymore. You're sort of dreaming about the day when you're no longer restricted by gravity, and so you can fly around, and you're no longer restricted by all of these things, and so you can do whatever you want, and there's peace on earth, and nobody eats each other, and I'm not going to lie, like, there's an aspect of me that really likes the idea of that. But when you start to gain, like, true awareness, there's no need to show off the abilities that come with it, because you realize the only reason you would be doing that in the first place is to get a kind of, worship that you didn't have, of course, when you were younger. And because you see that aspect, it's like you can't really be in a place of integrity and do those types of things. Even though you can transcend this dimension, you suddenly see the value of this dimension, and so you actually become more of a liver than you were previously. Instead of being exempt from life, it's like it's more real and more beautiful to wash the dishes. So I find it funny, but the people who really truly find ascension tend to be some of the most mundane. I mean, even though there's a true presence to them, and definitely when you get around them, you can definitely tell. It's still just like, I mean, they're very chop wood, carry water type of people. They're not the people who are like wowing you with like blowing crap up and or just with their mind and levitation and all of these kinds of things.
Because it's your state of consciousness becomes such that life is magical and mysterious, just, you know, within your being, regardless of.
Yes. You see everything that there is about life also, the positive and the negative. So obviously, if there is a physical dimension here, if there is war, if there is all of these negative things, then there has to be some kind of intention for it. And once you figure out that intention, you feel less of an urgency to basically put an end to everything that is vibrating at this frequency.